and welcome to part 5 in our SaaS Focus Series by Cloud 360 Accounting. I suppose we could call this the special edition because we have a returning guest now for interview today, which is James Ashford of GoProposal. And back here for, I suppose, a very special reason in that the big news on the cloud accounting sector over the last number of weeks was the acquisition of GoProposal by Sage. So James has kindly agreed to come on and chat through the ins and outs of that today. So thank you for coming on today, James.
Thanks for having me, Kieran.
No problem. So where do we start, I suppose? I mean, the acquisition was causing huge waves, I suppose, in our sector. A lot of accountants having a lot of views and opinions on what has happened with GoProposal and the acquisition with Sage and so on. But I mean, overall, the vast majority of people totally delighted, I suppose, with what's happened for you guys, and very much seeing it, I suppose, as a rags to riches story in terms of the timeline for GoProposal. So my first question for you, James, GoProposal starts around 2016. It's acquired by a FTSE 100 in 2021. It's almost like that dream journey of a 5-year period. Not even that you survived 5 years, but you got acquired in 5 years. Was GoProposal always a built to sell sort of strategy from the outset? Was that always really in the game plan?
Yeah, 100%. So from day one, I think even before we got our first customer, like I developed the GoProposal logo and then thought of all the potential acquirers for us and wrote GoProposal by GoProposal by beneath it, to look at it, to visualize it, to think, right, that is where we're going, that is where we're heading, and let's kind of set that as a clear path. And I think it's important to do that, because that's an aspiration. But that said, Kieran, there's a really good book by Simon Sinek. It's called The Infinite Game.
Yeah.
And he talks about the difference between a finite game and an infinite game. So a finite game is if you take an investment in your business, you're now playing a finite game because you have to sell. That's the game you're playing, right? If you're playing an infinite game, the game is to keep giving that as much value as you can and to keep playing as long as you can. So Apple, Tesla, Amazon, these are the type of companies that are playing infinite games. They're just trying to play forevermore. That's what they want to do. So whilst selling was a goal, it was a goal. It was a possibility. So other possibilities were I extract myself from the business and it continues to run without me. That we franchise the business into other sectors. So we say, right, well, let's franchise this into law. We franchise it into financial planning, and we do that. We do it that way. We franchise it into a different country. That's another way. Or that we continue to grow it and we rapidly scale it, or we sell it. Like the goal for me was to get to the point where we had the most number of options as fast as possible. So I don't think about exit strategy. I think about an option strategy. And the importance of getting there as fast as possible is because you don't know what's coming around the corner. So if anything were to come, or you want your life situation changed or whatever, you want to be in the best position you can to make the right option at that time.
Brilliant. So, I mean, almost a built to sell strategy is the finite game that Simon Sinek talks about, whereas the infinite game then is really just planning to continually improve and keep going in a forward direction, and have a number of options on the table so that you can sort of keep playing the game then.
100%. And so, like, the last time we spoke, I was going through the acquisition process, right? And I couldn't say anything about it. So I was like, but, the process started in December, in that businesses started to talk to us and were interested in us and started talking numbers that were the ballpark we were looking for. And then 2 more businesses started talking to us. So it was in February that we started this process. But it's a very fraught process. It's very tense. There's, constant hurdles and barriers. And we can talk more into the feelings about this in a bit. There's so many hurdles and barriers that you get. And every one of them is, will this process be allowed to continue, or does it stop here? Okay. So it's not. So then you get to the next hurdle, and I had them on my wall, this list of hurdles we had to get over, and said, it's like, right, next hurdle coming up. Does it stop here, or is it allowed to carry on to the next hurdle? So that was continual. But all throughout this, the way I kind of preserve my head was to say, even if this doesn't go ahead, we've got a great business. We have money in the bank. We're profitable. We're not burning through cash. We don't have to sell. It was always an option. Even when the paperwork came through on the last day to sign it, we just paused for a second and said, is this still the right decision for us? Do we still want to make this decision? So when we got to the point on the final day of signing that paperwork, it was still an option. It was still just an option.
It's just giving yourself a bit of time at every sort of junction that you come to sort of decide which is the right direction to go for the business, for you and for the team.
100%. And, you know, when we granted exclusivity to Sage, we'd done our due diligence on them, and we were 100% convicted in our thinking that was the absolute right acquirer for us, and for our team, for the product, for our customers, and for the future of where we were heading. So we had no doubts there. But, you know, even when to that last moment, you just need that final sense check. Is this still right? Is this still because the point is you want to be in that position where it is an option. If you get to the point where you're selling, or people are starting to talk to you about buying your business, and it's the only option you've got, you have to sell because you're running out of money or because of some other situation, you're not in a very strong position at that point at all.
Yeah, and I have to admit, it weakens your hand, it weakens your own position. And if you're in that market, you could certainly be acquired at a price which is probably not reflective of what, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a fair price, but you're certainly, your position's weakened when you're not able to walk away.
100%. Yeah.
How much in terms of the process itself did the team know? I mean, did some of the team know more than others? How did you keep them involved? How did you keep them appraised of what was happening?
Yeah, so the normal process, I believe, with what you should do with your team is to keep in the dark, and then you sell the business, and then they get an email from the new company saying, we own you now. and that's it. We've always had a very honest and transparent relationship with our team, and that's been very important, and it's part of what's built the trust with the team and created a great culture. So, for example, we get, or I have received a set of monthly management accounts every month since the start of the business. But early on, I wanted what I call the stakeholder version of those management accounts. So what they did with the stakeholder version is they took a few things out that weren't necessarily relevant for the team, but then the team get a set of management accounts, right, so that they can understand where we are. Are we on track? They know what the profit is. The team are involved with annual planning days. The team are involved with quarterly planning sessions. They drive the business, you know. And so it was, for a long time, it's not been me driving the business. It's been the mission and the vision of what we're doing that drives the business. And that's then allowed them to make informed decisions. So when we started this process, well, even prior to this process, anyone starting to work with us, right from Jack being the first employee, he knew that you are joining a business to sell. Yeah. And what I've said to them all is, you can have a great story. Your story is going to be you've helped to start a business, to scale up, and to then get acquired. Yeah. And then your next story is going to be a great story as well, which is you can help to integrate into that new company, and you can help to make it a tremendous acquisition. Yeah. That's going to make you, if you're able to help to scale a business and then to get acquired and then to scale it on the other side, you're a very valuable person in the world. This is what I'm helping you to get. So everyone knew that from the start. So when we started this process, we announced the team, we are entering the M&A process that we've talked about. It's not guaranteed. We are going to embark with it with, you know, full conviction that this is what we're going ahead with. If it doesn't play out, do you know what? We crack on doing what we're doing because it's not an issue. So they all knew what we're doing. At every step of the way, we kept them informed. So when we got to the point of where we're doing management presentations, yeah, we were able to say, what are the questions you want us to ask of the potential acquirer? So they got to put that forward. When we got to the final two, they didn't know names of companies. They didn't know the names of the acquirer because that would have just been a bit problematic. But we were able to kind of describe the nature of the business and then allow them to ask their questions. And the importance of that, Kieran, is that, like, we've got one member of staff who's about to get married, another member of staff who just had a child. Like, they're backing you and yeah, committing their life to you, and you're paying their money. Yeah. And so they need confidence that this is the right step. So we made sure that they had a voice at every stage. Heather, who's the operations director, and my niece led the presentation. So she was so I would introduce it, and then she drove it, and she is just so in tune with the team and with culture and with people and stuff. And, you know, there were certain meetings that we had in the process that she wasn't quite happy with, and she picked up on things that I'd not picked up on, and which is why we made decisions that we made along the way. And then as we granted exclusivity to Sage, and then we started to work through that process, we then needed to weave people in. So, for example, one of the tests that they do is they bring in technical experts to test the product from two aspects: one from a security aspect, and one from is it coded in the right way? Is it built and created in the right way? So at that point, my team, my devs now need to be working with them to move that forward. And that was a really interesting phase, because what can happen at that is when you go through this, obviously it's your baby and you're protective of it, and then you've got these big companies that are brought in who are experts in this, who are paid a lot of money to find everything that's wrong, will come back with a massive report, and I don't care who you are, they will find lots wrong with you. You know, even if it was Amazon, they would find stuff wrong with Amazon, right? So you get this massive report, and sometimes at that point people can be pissed off because they're ripping you in half, like with, you know, their feedback. I just thought, like, this is great. Like, even if this doesn't go ahead, what a great thing that you got someone assessing your product and giving you this great feedback. So when we turned up we got given the report from the security review, and we knew we were strong anyway, but there was still a few things that needed sorting. And we got to the meeting a week later where they kind of go through and they say, right, this is what's wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. At the end of the meeting, I said, thank you so much. I just want to thank you for what you've given us. You are helping us to strengthen our product. And by the way, we've fixed everything that you've just read through. And they're like, what do you mean? We're going to give you the report a week ago. I said, I know. And we've been working on it since you gave it us, and it's all solved. And they're like, well, how have you done this? How have you fixed that? And the devs explained it, and they're like, wow, like, okay, brilliant. And the moment they realized that we were on side, everyone relaxed, and it was just a great session, and everyone was really happy at the end of it. So if you're working with the right acquirer, they're not actually there to catch you out or trip you up or chip away at the original price. We got the price that we were offered in the initial offer of intent. We got the exact amount at the end of it. They weren't trying to chip away. They just want to make sure that everything you've said you are. So as we went through the process, we wove members of the team in as they were required. So they got to learn who the acquirer was. And then as we got closer, more and more team members had to get involved, because there was literally thousands of questions. That's not an exaggeration. Thousands of questions had to be worked through around every aspect of the business. So I had to bring in the team to start answering those questions.
There's a couple of interesting things you're saying there, James. I mean, you do say quite a lot about where's the gift in this. You say it to the GoProposal members a lot. But you guys have been practically using that throughout this entire process, getting the report, which for some people, I mean, I have spoken to clients before where they're in a process like this, and it's very much a sort of, it almost feels like they're butting heads with the potential acquirer or whoever it is. And it's like, but you've turned that into a positive situation whereby it's like, well, if this doesn't go ahead, we've now got this, which will improve everything. And that actually, and the ability to flip that in everybody's mind made the acquirer even more interested then, I suppose, at that stage as well.
Yes. Yeah. And another big aspect of it as well, Kieran, was the financial side of it as well. Yeah. So they're testing out every part of your business. And when they acquire you, they're going to bring in a top, if it's a PLC, a FTSE 100 company, as it was in our situation. And when I say an option to exit, by the way, exiting then has other options. Like, you're going to sell to an investment company, a small company, your competitor, a PLC, a FTSE 100, because all those have different challenges. And you want to be able to be prepared for all of those. So if you're selling to a FTSE 100, they're going to bring in a top 4 accountancy firm, probably 2.
Yep.
One to look at the financial side, one to look at the tax side, which was, in our case, what happened. And at one point, they set up a data room where they put all of your financial information in. At one point, there were 75 people from a top 4 accountancy firm in that data room looking at our stuff. And I'm like, what are they all doing? What are they all looking at? We had a one round where there were 7 from a top four tax from a tax division of one of those firms, brought in one of our guys to ask questions on tax. There were 17 people on the call, and our guy in our situation had to go and answer the questions. And we said to him, "How many questions did they ask you?" He said 17. Every person was an expert in one area, in one question, and they wanted to know the answer to that question. The financial rigor and disciplines and software and processes that we've had in place since day one. We've invested heavily into the finance function of our business. We've invested around 3% of the revenue into that finance function of the business since day one. Had we not have done that, Kieran, we could have not started this process. It would have been a non-starter. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to have been doing this for 3 years. 3 years. Like, there were questions about this process where they're like, right, in April 2019, April to May 2019, this happened in the finance, or this drop here, or this rose up here, or this percentage change. What happened? And you need to know what happened. So you have to go back to the management account. You have to go back to the minutes of that board meeting.
Yeah.
What happened there? What explained that situation? Why did we lose them clients? What happened? And it's not they're trying to catch you out. They just want to know that you've have some narrative and understanding of and control of that, right? So we had that in place since day one. We invested heavily, but the financial rigor and disciplines that are required of a business to scale is one thing. We had that. What you need though for a PLC to buy you is another level.
Yeah.
So when we brought in the M&A company, we then started investing at a whole other level. Many tens of thousands more to get everything up to a whole new level of discipline, to build out not 3-year cash flow forecast, but 10-year discounted cash flow forecasts and various things like that. So a whole other level of seeing things, which was a tremendous amount of work. It started in February, took several months just to upgrade our current system to prepare for what was about to come. And then as we entered this process, then it got even higher and deeper and even further, because you got to think about it. The top, 4 firm coming in, they want to rack up a bill. Yeah. They want to submit a big invoice at the end of it. What you've got to do is prevent them from being able to submit an invoice, because every time they ask a question, you've got an answer for it.
Yeah. And the process itself, you were saying, started around, say, December last year. For other SaaS businesses now, maybe listening to this and considering the journey that you guys have had, James, a couple of things to consider. Number one, you guys sort of went for the bootstrap model, shall we call it, as opposed to the investment model. So some SaaS businesses might look now and go, well, actually, this might be actually the way to go. Some SaaS businesses have a burn rate of a certain amount per month, and they're constantly losing money, so they need the investment model and so on. Do you think that being acquired by Sage, a FTSE 100 company, would it have happened if you were losing money on a monthly basis, or break even, or would you still have attracted the attention that you did from the likes of Sage, without the results that you guys were getting, I suppose?
I don't think, Kieran, that in its own right would have been a factor, personally. However, the fact that we didn't have investment meant that we were in control of what we were doing. Yeah. Right? The fact that we didn't have investment meant that we had to be resourceful in the way that we marketed our business and scaled our business. Had we had money, I may have never written my book, international bestseller, #1 bestseller on Amazon, by the way. And that became and is the #1 rated book in accountancy practice management in the world. So I appreciate that's a niche, but the fact that we had to bootstrap it meant that how do I impact people? How do I reach out to people? Well, it was through that. When we went to attend an event, and we did one in the US, and we tried it, and I looked at the costs and stuff, and it probably wiped its face at the end of it. But I thought, still a lot of cash that to spend. And for the cost of that event, I could invest in a full-time videographer, right? And sack off attending these events and have a 24/7, 365-day year digital strategy, right? Yeah. So pre-pandemic, we made the decision to pull out of all real world events, and we doubled down on our digital strategy. Had we have had investment at that point, like our competitors had, so when our competitors got their next round of investment, they attended every event. As soon as they got their next round of investment, I saw what they did at the next event. They went from a bronze stand to a gold stand. Right? They got more cash. So what they do is, if your business gets more cash, and I'm not saying these were lazy, maybe they were, I'm just saying it's easy to be lazy because you've now got this cash. So what you tend to do is more of the shit you were doing before. Okay. So you attend an event, you've got a bronze stand. Okay, we've got another $10 million of investment. Let's do gold stands. Brilliant. Okay. Well, we didn't have that luxury. So we had to step back, think strategically, think creatively, because all of the money is coming out of my pocket. So I'm thinking, do I spend this money on growing the business or taking my family on a holiday? Well, it really tunes you into squeezing everything you can out of every pound. So back to your question, which is, had we, we were a profitable business with money in the bank, growing nicely, versus having a burn rate, losing money, whatever, would that have made a difference? I don't think so. As long as the revenue was there, that was the key thing. The revenue was there. However, it was everything else that we were achieving with our community, with our education, with our reputation, with the book, with the video content that we're producing. We're the most prolific producers of video content in the accounting industry. We dominate all social platforms, right? We wouldn't have achieved that. And that was so attractive to them. And so, the perception and the value that we've created in the space, that wouldn't have been achieved if we'd taken investment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the money would have basically gone on other things. And those events, you only have a certain amount of footfall at those events anyway. So, the digital strategy seems to be a more sensible option from a strategic point of view anyway, James.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's important to do that. And, when people take investment, I was at an event last night and there was far smarter people there than me and investors. And they did echo what I was saying, which was the fact that if you are taking investment, don't take it too early. And don't take it to prove a minimal viable product. And when people think of a minimal viable product, they think in their head of building the software. They think it now works. That's the minimal viable product. No, the minimal viable product is it works and someone is getting their card out of their pocket and paying you money. That's when it works, right? If you can build a great product, but no one's giving you any cash, it's not working. Okay, it's got to be a business. So the minimal viable product is the actual business. You should do that bootstrapped. You should be resourceful. You should half what your spec was, then half it again. Keep it lean, keep it tight. Once you've proven that, then get the investment to scale. But if you bring the money too early, the money can mask underlying problems that are there. That you need the market to pressure test. And as painful as that is, it's actually a gift. Going back to what we said as a gift before, it's a real gift that you need that. It needs to be proven first. It's a hurdle, it's a hoop to jump through, but it's an important one to jump through without the cash, I think.
I've worked with a number of SaaS businesses, and one of the primary metrics that they were looking at was the burn rate, and at what point are we going to run out of cash again? Like, that is how they were structuring the business. And spend your money on the sales and marketing at a certain level to make sure that you're acquiring customers to attract the attention of the big boys. But for you guys, what I like about what GoProposal has done, and it's very much the building yourselves to be credible experts in the niche that you're in, not just a product which is in that niche. It's very much understanding your customer. It's really down to the basics of that, by the sounds of it.
Yeah. And just a couple of other things as well there, Kieran, is I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night if we take an investment. Like it's one thing, make it, exiting and selling for millions and all that stuff. But it's another thing, living your life, spending time with your kids when they're young, enjoying life with your wife and with your friends and family and all this type of stuff, and sleeping and having your health and being fit and all that. There's all these different buckets you've got to fill. Is your mental health good? Is your physical health good? Is your family life good? Is your intimate relationship good? Is your friendships good? Is your spirituality good? All these things. And is Is my work good? Is my finances good? These are all buckets. But if you just focus on the last one at the expense of all others, and you think that's successful, it's a huge failing.
Yeah.
You have to be successful across the board. And another thing is, there's this big drive towards building these unicorn SaaS business, taking huge investment and going for it and thinking you're going to build the next Google or the next Facebook or the next Amazon or whatever, right? And I say this, you know me, I'm the most positive person there is, right? So I'm not saying this as a pessimist, but I'm saying this, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know, the chance of you building that is so remote. Like, don't even think that you're going to do it, because it will just cause you so many problems. My analogy is, imagine you trying to climb up a ladder. It's like, don't try and build £1 billion business, because you've just got one rung here and one rung so high up, you're going to exhaust yourself trying to get to that next rung. Build a £1 million business, build a £10,000 revenue business, build a £100,000 business, build a 1 million, like scale it up. But you know what? If you build a £1 million revenue business, and anyone listening to this is the goal. If you're a SaaS business listening to this, aim to build a £1 million revenue business, 83 and a half, whatever it is, 83 and a third thousand pounds a month, recurring revenue. You get to that, you're £1 million business. What that says to the world is we're credible. We know what we're doing. We've learned something along the way. At that point, you are acquirable. You will be acquirable for a multiple, and that multiple will depend on the sector you're in, various other factors, and you know, the strategic alignment with a potential acquirer. All these factors go into that. Right? But what's the problem of selling a business and making £3.5 million, or making £8 million, or £12 million, right? This total notion of I've got to sell it for 100 million or £1 billion or whatever, right? It's bullshit. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you had £3.5 million, it would change your life.
Yeah.
Right? If you were smart, you'd never need to work again. If you got £5 million, you'd never need to work again, right? So, but also it gives you a great platform to build the next business and build the next business and build the next one. And I've become fearful of people watching Instagram, TikTok, seeing people, big mansions, driving big fast cars, all this crap, right? And following these huge inspirational people, and they're incredible people. Like, they're doing amazing things, but that is certainly coming at the expense of something, and aiming for this big windfall. And it's why are you actually doing this? And for me, when I live in a nice house, I want to drive a nice car. I want to be able to put a deposit down on my kids' house. I want to pay for them through university. I want to pay for their weddings. I want a few holidays a year. Like, when you start to figure that stuff out, it's not actually as big a lump sum as you think you need. So just make it real, make it mean something, you know, for you and for your family.
And that's where, I mean, that's where you start off with your personal goals when you're running your business. That's why it's so important to get life-centered on all of this, no matter what kind of business you're in, and get real about what you really want as well. Do you want to work X number of hours a week? Do you want to take X number of weeks off a year? You got to get real around all of those things. Yeah.
And and decide as a family, what is it that you want? Like, with you and your partner, it's really important that you're aligned with what you're doing and financially. With your children, like I said to Becky, we sold the business, made our cash. Like, what should we do now? Should we go skiing? She's like, why? She says, Scarlett hates the cold. Leo doesn't like anything active, and you can't balance. Like, what are we going skiing for? We like going to Norfolk. Let's go there in a nicer car, stay in a nicer place, and go there. Yeah. And a few years ago, we went to Australia, and I remember getting back. It was an amazing holiday. Took the kids, stayed in the most incredible place on Hamilton Island. Beautiful, right? Got back and we're like, right, kids, what's the best holiday you've ever had? Thinking it's going to be this one. Centre Parks. Definitely Centre Parks.
That's it.
Why? Near the house, half an hour away, not much traveling. I get to see you every day. It's in the woods. We go swimming. We go biking. We stay up late. We have a barbecue. Love it. And when you talk to your kids, all they want is you.
Yeah.
So it's so simple. They just want you, right? And you have this aspiration of making all this cash because of what you think it means. And I always remember reading a quote from Jim Rohn years ago, and it said, aim to be a millionaire in your life, not for the money, but for the person you'll have to become in order to get there. That was my driver. I wanted to know, who will I have to become? And I have become different people at different stages. And I've certainly seen it as an evolution of me. I've certainly matured in lots of ways. to get to where I've got to. So I'll say the word, we've made millions from this. Okay. And what have we done with it? We've had all this money sat in the bank for months, done nothing.
Yeah.
We're staying in the same house that we're living in because it's near the kids' school and we like it. Becky wanted a new car. I've kept the car I've got. Yeah. We've helped and relieved some pressure with family, and which was very important to us. Nothing's changed. I still can't get a fucking Tyler to sort the bathroom out, right? I still can't, the same shit that existed before seems still to be the same shit now. I've just got a whole other world of problems. And people say, yeah, but I'd rather have those problems than these problems. Yeah, you would. They're better problems to have, but they're still problems. It's still life. Yeah, it's just life, man. Nothing ever, it's not going to go. Problems are never going to disappear. Yeah. You're going to get bigger problems, but with bigger potential wins, but nothing materially has changed. And I don't think anything massively will change either, to be honest, Kieran. We've got a strong financial plan moving forward. Yeah. It's fairly conservative. It gets us to the end of our days and nothing dramatic happens. And people say, oh, if I got that amount of money, I'd do this or I'd do that. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You really wouldn't. Mm-hmm.
You think you would, but you're still you, your family is still there, and everything else doesn't change. So,
but I think money's like alcohol, Kieran, right? It just allows you to be more the person you were. So when you hear these people say, oh, I only hit him because I was drunk. No. Or I only started swearing or whatever because I was drunk. No, that's who you are. Yeah. The drink allowed you to be who you really are. So if you're a dick and you drink, you'll just be more of a dick. I'll tell you what I am when I drink. I'm tired, Kieran. Right? So when I drink, I fall asleep. There's nothing. I have a window between the third and the fourth pint where I'm slightly leery, and then I fall asleep. Right. So it's the same with money. Money is like alcohol. It will allow you to be more of you. If you're a generous, kind, giving person, loving person, whatever, it will allow you to be kinder and do more of the things and help more people out. If you're a douche, you'll be more of a douche. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to focus on you and who you are throughout all of this, thinking, who am I becoming? Yeah. In order to have what you want to have, you've got to do what you need to do. And in order to do what you need to do, you need to be who you need to be. Yeah. But the whole process starts with who do you need to be? Yeah. Too many people are focusing, what do I need to do to have what I have? And it's no. The real question is, who do I need to be to do what I need to do? Yeah.
Which book? There's a book I've read where that's actually the whole sort of theory of it too. It might have been Atomic Habits, was it, by James Clear? I can't remember.
I've not read that, but it sounded so good when I said it. I will have definitely stolen it from someone. So
yeah, it's. Or was it a podcast? I can't remember. It was about leadership. Something I read about or heard about leadership about.
Be more, have more, do more. It's quite a It's like a fairly common thing. I don't know where it originates, but I'll just claim it. If you can't remember where, the trick is to remember.
I think I actually got it on Audible, and it is a book. I think it's Act Like a Leader, Be Like a Leader, or something like that. I'll tell you now. Actually, give me a second because it's just I've got to find it now. But it is that theory about you've got to become a certain type of person, and not just focusing on what your to-dos are. It's very much along those lines now.
Yes.
Let me just see. Go there. And there we go. I'm nearly sure. Act Like a Leader, Think Like a Leader. By Herminia Ibarra. Act Like a Leader, Think Like a Leader. Yeah. So it was very much along the lines of, it's not all the thoughts that you're having in terms of what do you need to think like to be a leader and how you need to behave to be a leader. It's actually just be a leader.
Yes.
Just act a certain way and everything else will fall into place for you. So actually it's about becoming that type of person just. So I think it's very much along those lines. Question for you now, James, on the practicalities of all of this. I mean, there was obviously a tipping point when you guys either decided to go to market in terms of acquisition, or was it actually the case, like you were talking about the £1 million revenue at that point, you're attracting interest? For you guys, along with Sage and whoever else was involved in the process, who went to who or who came to who first? Was it, did they come to you through a broker to say, look, we've got somebody here who's interested, or did you actually go through a broker and go to market?
Yeah. So we started like 5 years ago, Becky, my wife, Becky, and I, we sat down and we did a financial plan, personal financial plan, in terms of what is it we're looking to achieve with our life and how much money would we need to do that. So we worked backwards from there, Kieran, and then we got a number. And then that number was, we made an agreement with ourselves, which is when we get to that number, we sell. That's it. Okay. And, you know, all these things come in, your ego kicks in. Yeah, but I could get it to this amount. I could get it to there. And it's like, yeah, you could. Our financial planner, who's a brilliant guy called Adam Carolan, and he said, when you get to that number, I'll make sure you sell. Like, it won't be you're selling. That's it. It's done. That's what we've agreed. Okay, got it. So that was always the commitment. We didn't quite know when that would arrive. We felt that once we got over £1 million, we'd start revenue. We'd start to get into the ballpark, and it was quite interesting. Really, it was me standing by my values. I think that there was a big company, and they wanted to do a partnership with us. They wanted to sell our product, and they wanted a commission to sell, and a huge opportunity, and, you know, creating this win-win situation. And they came back with what they wanted their percentage to be. And I don't know if they thought I was going to negotiate or what, because we were tiny, they were huge. And I said, I'll tell you what you can do. And I told them what they could do. I said, this is not in the spirit of this agreement. You've created a win-lose, a massive win for you, massive loss for us. I'm not interested in even negotiating because of what you've come to me with. Do one. And they went, fair enough. Okay. What if we bought you? I'm like, okay, what we talking? So they started to talk some numbers, and the numbers were more than we were aiming for for ourselves, or thereabouts. So we progressed those conversations, and they didn't lead anywhere. They went far, but they kind of fizzled out. But it made us realize that we're in the right area. And then within a month, another company had knocked on our door, another one had knocked on the door. There started to be a bit of, you know, quite a bit of activity bubbling in the SaaS space, and specifically in the accounting space.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of interests, enough to make me think, are we there yet? And it got to January, I saw another company get bought, and I thought, do you know what if now is the right time?
Yeah.
Like, who's buying and selling these businesses? And I tracked this M&A company down in Bristol called Shaw & Co. And I contacted them. I said, you've just sold a business. I don't know what you sold it for, but I imagine it was a good amount. Do you think you could do the same for us? And he went, yeah, let's have a look. So we engaged with them in February. And my analogy was like, I don't know where I got this analogy from. I don't even know if it works, but it was like, we'd had looks, people had looked at us, like, imagine going to the prom, going to that was what I had in my head, going to the prom, and some people have like winked at you to make you think, oh, maybe they want to go to the prom with us, but we haven't actually gone to the prom. Do you know what? Let's get our suit on, let's get our best suit on, let's brush our hair, and let's go in and say, right, you, and you, do any of you want to go to the prom with me? Like, let's just go for it. Let's get dressed up, and let's see if now is the right time. So we put our best suit on. We built our A, B, C and list out of who we thought would be great acquirers. We reached out to them. The ones that are interested, you send out what's called an IM, which is the information memorandum, which is effectively a brochure.
Yeah,
it doesn't tell them who you are, but they should be able to guess who you are from that. They then say whether they're interested or not. They enter an NDA agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, where at that point they get to see more information, and then they get to invite you to do a management presentation to them, where you sit down with their board or whoever they want to bring to that, and you go into more depth and you get to ask each other questions. From that, they then get to make offers to you, those that are interested. And from those offers, if they're right, you get to then discuss, negotiate a little bit, and say, right, this is the one that we want to go with. Let's grant you exclusivity. And at that point, you then go into a deep dive due diligence phase. And what I will say is, I never expected it to be as hard or as tough or as rigorous. Man, I was waking up at 4:30 every day. 4:30 every day. In the last month, I was up at 3:30 every day. On the last days, I was up at 2:30 every day. And I was not set my alarm. I'd be in bed and I'm like, ding. My head was just on. Shit, got all this stuff to do, right? Since February, I was not operational in the business at all. I was fully committed to the process. So none of my head or activity or emotional or energy was available to anyone in the company. I was fully committed to this and needed every ounce of my energy. I had to stop talking to family members. I had to stop talking to certain friends. I reduced my circle so tight because I needed all of my energy to get through this. Heather, who was the operations director, 50% of her time was devoted to this. We had a small team of 14 people. I imagine for certain parts, 25% of that team was taken up on this, right? So you've got to back yourself out of a business. If you're involved in the running of your business, you can't enter this process at that level of intensity. And to do what we did and attract the multiple that we attracted, it was intense, man. Like it was so hard. So you have to extract yourself from the business before that process. And also, you've got key members of the team involved with it. They're not on their day-to-day. And you've got to continue to grow. The business needs to grow. They wanted the results. They wanted the financial, the numbers from the month before they signed the deal. So we signed in the September. They wanted August's numbers. They want to see that it's still doing this. So you're not involved. Key members of the team aren't involved. And it's not that the business just has to run. It has to continue to grow right up to the finish line. Like what you have to prepare before this process is crazy, man. You need a fantastic accountant on board. You need someone who's going to challenge you and push you, who's going to make you feel uncomfortable with how much you are investing in that finance function. They're going to have to challenge you. You have to prepare to be called out on stuff, to learn stuff that you never learned. You have to become someone that you were not at the start, because the person that you were is not going to be the person that you need to be. You need to learn these things, and you need someone on your side to build that finance function out, because they're going to get dragged into the process as well as you go through this.
Was there any point during the M&A process that you had major doubts or, wobbles in your own mind, James, about whether or not it was the right thing to do, or, were you guys kind of cut out for it or whatever? Was there any major points that you had some serious doubts?
I don't think so. Like as hard as I've just described it, by the way, as hard as I've just described it, like my granddads were in the war, right? My grandma started work when she was 6 years old, going and blackening the grates of school, a school where she used to go to, right? They're from a farming background. The hardships they've had. My mum, she had 3 children. Her first husband died in a car crash. The kids had shoes with cardboard in them. Right. She gave birth within a couple of days with the children. She was back working on the land. From in the winter, they had to recruit farmers from Ireland because they were the only ones tough enough to come and pick sprouts. So the Irish would come over and pick sprouts because you had to shake the snow off the sprouts to be able to pick them, right? With the exception of my mum and her sister. They work with the Irish to do this. Grafters, right? My dad grafting, or my brother worked down the pit. Like the hardships, when I look back at my family and what they do, when I think about this, it was hard, but I'm sat in an office, I'm like pinging emails, I'm getting information, like get a grip, right? So all of that, I had perspective, because compared to them, the work doesn't compare to what generations of my family and your family and other families will have done, right? And the payoff is far bigger than anything anyone in my family has ever achieved before. And I am not working harder than them. I just happen to be in a space where the work I'm doing is valued enough by another company to be able to want to acquire us, to give me a large sum of cash, and that I can now support my family and help them even more, and also for generations to come. So there was never a doubt, Kieran, in my mind that this is what we're doing, this is what we're going through. That's not to say I wouldn't have had weak moments, not to say I wouldn't have cried, I wouldn't have been exhausted, I wouldn't have been on a Friday and we had 100 questions that had to come in that had to be answered that day, and some of those questions warranted 40-page answers to prepare for, and we finished it and we sent it off, and my kids were in the car with Becky to go out, and I'm standing up from my laptop and I hit refresh, and I saw in my inbox, oh, and you need these answering by Saturday morning. And then I pressed refresh again, and another load of questions, like, oh, and I just opened it up and I just saw a spreadsheet with over like 60 questions. And I'm like, and this was like getting close to the wire. And I just went, fuck, like, when will this stop? So there were certainly moments of weakness and like just exhaustion, but never lost sight of the prize, never lost, getting a grip, like get a grip. Yeah. I remember once I was like, I kept my kids in the loop of what we're doing. And I'm like, gee, I can't believe how many questions they're asking. It's just ridiculous. I've got to answer all these questions today. Oh my God. And my son had overheard me, 11-year-old Leo, and he went, Dad, the thing is, they are wanting to pay you a lot of money for this. And they are just asking you some questions. So why don't you just get on with it? And I'm like, yeah, fair point. Yeah, get on with it.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I think it's moments like that you just need your kids to be just your kids.
That's it.
That's just unbelievable.
Do you know what? We sold Kieran. The money hit the bank. And I think Becky had gone away for the weekend with her friends, and I took the kids to the new James Bond film that come out. And we went to watch James Bond. And after it, and we watched it on the IMAX, and it was great. And afterwards went to Five Guys for burgers and stuff. And so I can't talk numbers, but there was lots of zeros on the numbers in my bank account, right? Which I never had that amount of money before. What's funny was, like a month before, I'd got a notification, I screenshot my bank, it's on my Starling app, it said, you've got a payment coming out tomorrow and you've not got enough money in your overdraft to cover it. I'm like, I'm screenshotting that, right? But anyway, we've gone to Five Guys afterwards, and the kids, they've ordered the burgers and stuff, and they're like, can we both have a refillable drink, please? I'm like, you're not having one each, you can share one. I'm not mental. I made them share a refillable drink.
You gotta keep people grounded, James.
Yeah, man.
Brilliant. Two other things just before we finish up. Number one is, like, you always talk about the importance of systems and processes, and the importance of people running those systems and running the business, which would allow you to be extracted. So I guess that kind of speaks for itself in terms of what you have been. You talked about to me at one point in time, probably at the very start of the pandemic, so way before all of this was happening, about the process of killing the king and getting you out of the business anyway. So that was always your strategy. So having the right people in your business is absolutely paramount to make that happen. So having a strong kind of recruitment and training process as part of this whole journey as well, James, would be very important.
Yes, 100%. I realize I keep saying 100% a lot. I think I've said 100% a lot. I'll try and say something else. I have been up since 4:30 this morning. I was at an event in London last night, like a Dragon's Den style event. And I was about 4:30 this morning, because I had a 5:30 webinar with some guys in Australia. So it's been a long few days.
You're forgiven.
But anyway, so back to your question. Yeah. So we've had very strong playbooks from the start. So everything is documented, from scripts, from phone calls to email scripts, and systemized as much as we can to free the team up, which is how we've been able to get to £1 million revenue business with 12 members of staff, right? So great systems, great processes, everything documented. Every time a new member of staff comes in, they get trained via video. So even if they're in the same room, we jump on a Zoom call and do a Zoom training video on what that person needs to do. Because the beauty of that is then when the next person comes in, I've now got an asset that can be used to train the next person, right? So we're always trying to create assets. There's a really good book called 24 Assets. That is a real bookcase back there.
Yeah.
People think it's a fake background, but it's not. No. So 24 Assets is a really good book about building assets in the business. So that was very key. But from the start, having a very strong culture and very strong values. And when people talk about values and they talk about a SaaS business, they think it means having a bar football table in the thing and
hammocks,
graphics on the wall and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. The real part of values is having proper conversations with people and never letting standards drop below what you expect from people, and being prepared to have difficult conversations and explain to people that if you don't maintain this standard, or if this continues, you're going to lose your job within the next 30 days. And then sitting in front of those people and telling them, and I fired people after just a few months. I'd fire people after a week. I'd fire people after a day. And that maybe sounds like I'm a douche or whatever. It's not. It's on our values. It's because I have to preserve and protect those core values with all of my might for the sake of my team. My team are the priority. You're a client of mine, Kieran, and you're a priority, but you're not the number one priority. My team are my number one priority. So if I can't get them absolutely firing all cylinders and being incredible, they're never going to give you the service that you need. So my team are the priority, and the way that you protect them is by upholding those values. And sometimes, especially when you're small and you're growing, you can get upset when people get off the bus or they need to get off the bus. You're the bus driver. You've just got to keep going. And sometimes those people need to get off because someone else needs to get on, and that other person won't get on until that person's got off. So when they get off or you shove them off, like, don't stress it. Just keep driving, get to the next bus stop, and someone else will get on.
So that's interesting you said. I mean, I have a business coach guy called Ian Dixon, and Ian had a session with me, I think maybe even last month, the month before, and he said exactly the same kind of thing there. It's about your priorities should be in terms of your life and so on. It's like, you, believe it or not, should be number one. Your family, friends, number two. Like your business, your team, and then your customers. And he says, most people go, I can't put my customers and clients at the bottom of that list. They go, trust me, that's where they need to be, because they will be fulfilled if you fulfill everything else anyway, type of thing, So that's the same kind of analogy that you're talking about there. Last question, I suppose, is going to be, what is next for GoProposal? And you're now the vice president of GoProposal by Sage. What is next for James Ashford? I mean, I'm assuming you're going to be there for a couple of years, and do you even know what you're going to do after that point in time?
I think so. It's funny when you go and buy something, or they need your details, and they're like, "What's your profession?" And you're like, "Vice president," and they don't have it in the drop down list. They have to come with some other shit. So it's great in terms of what we're doing. I think it's very interesting in the accounting space, and I've been really reflecting on this for a while now, Kieran, in that we have all these digital tools, but life's still hard. It's still harder than ever to grow your firm.
And sometimes harder as a result.
Sometimes harder because you got all this, and also bad your head as well, because you think, I've got all these tools now, and life is still really hard. I'm still not making enough money. I'm still working ridiculous hours. I thought if I got all this stuff, life would be easier. And for me, it's not about. I think there's something, I'm calling it the digital myth, in that I don't think a digital solution is enough. It needs to be truly digitized. Okay. So what I would explain that is, if you imagine analog is the start, imagine your speedometer in your car. It's an analog needle that moves. Okay. Then it becomes digital. So it's got a screen now, but it's the same information that you had before. It's just on a screen. That's what a lot of people have got in terms of digital products. Truly digitized is when it becomes a heads-up display, and you can now, it knows that you're in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. It gives you that information. It shows you your speed next to it to make sure that you're sticking to the speed. It knows there's a traffic situation coming up, and it's telling you to take the next right. Like, you now got information in real time that's, because of the environment, the space you're going in, that's actually pulling that data together and getting you to move forward. That is the path that we're on with GoProposal. And it was that alignment with Sage and what we're about to do together is the thing that really excited all of us, and why we made this a great success. So we're really excited about fully integrating with them and creating this vision for the future for the accounting industry. It's very, very exciting. So really love that challenge and what we're working on together there. Then I'll as we progress, I'll be working in other areas of Sage as well. So I think probably for 6 months, continuing to build and grow GoProposal. Beyond that, how does that then fit into the other things that they're doing? What other learnings can we kind of share with Sage and grow there? And then I think after a couple of years, or maybe even after 12 months while I'm still within Sage, I love small businesses. Like, I love helping them and like what we're doing now. And I think that's where my real heart is. And so through this, I'm going to be able to work more closely with entrepreneurs and small businesses, and helping them to navigate some of the challenges that I've challenged, that I've overcome. I think I'll be able to do that with Sage, and then maybe afterwards do that on my own, and maybe get involved with a handful of businesses or something like that. Could be really good. But I will I've loved the accounting space, Kieran. I've loved meeting incredible people like you who are just so committed to their clients and for you to build a life that you're looking for as well, but through great service and provide, constantly developing yourself and progressing and giving great value. And you kind of embody what so many accountants are, which is just brilliant people, like genuinely care and doing great work. So my heart will always be within the accounting industry, and I will continue to do something here, whether it's events or webinars or whatever. And in my mind, I will do that under the banner of Sage in some capacity if they want me to continue to do that. They're a British company, FTSE 100, employ tens of thousands of 13,000 people, whatever it is that they employ, £2 billion revenue. They're a good British company. Like, I want to back them. I want to help them to be a great success and what they're wanting to champion within the accounting industry. If I can help them to be an ambassador for that, then I will continue to do that.
Brilliant. Well, look, you certainly have the credibility now from the experience that you've had. And I just want to say thanks for sharing everything with us today. Hopefully everyone who is watching or listening to this has got some kind of inspiration from it. I know I certainly have. So listen, James, thank you very much for your time today, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.